Across the galaxy, ruins of dead civilizations floated like broken bones in the darkness. Great empires had once ruled the stars, but now their names were only dust. Among the scattered wreckage, one thing was always found: a simple warning, carved into stone, metal, and sometimes even the very bones of fallen kings. Beware the sleeping Earth. For years no one understood it. Earth? A small blue planet, far from important trade routes. Its people barely had technology to travel to their own moon. How could such a simple world bring fear to mighty galactic empires? The Xylar Dominion, rulers of 3,000 systems, laughed at the warning. They believed Earth was weak, slow, and easy to conquer. Commander Vekthal of the Xylar First Fleet leaned back in his throne aboard the battleship Dominance. Before him floated a hologram of Earth, turning slowly under a blanket of clouds. No defensive satellites, no energy shields, no orbital fleets, just a small green world spinning silently in space. Pathetic, Vekthal said, waving his clawed hand. His officers, tall insectoid creatures with shining carapaces, hissed in agreement. Commander, one scout said, stepping forward. The ancient records, they say Earth. Ancient records are fairy tales, Vekthal snapped. This planet is ripe for harvest. We will land, we will take what we want, then we will leave. The fleet moved into position. Hundreds of warships, sleek and black, hung in orbit above Earth. They waited for the signal. Still the planet remained silent. No transmissions. No response. It was as if Earth didn't even notice their arrival. Far below, human cities glowed, warmly in the night. Tiny pinpricks of light, soft, harmless, unaware. Or so it seemed. In the darkness of space, one Xylar scout ship broke formation. It drifted closer to Earth's upper atmosphere, scanning for radio signals. Inside the ship, the pilot frowned. Static filled his controls. His instruments showed something wrong. Strange energy readings, like shadows moving just beyond sensor range. Commander Vekthal, this is Scout 3, the pilot said through the communicator. I'm detecting interference. It's everywhere. Vekthal sneered. Static? The humans are probably using primitive radar. Ignore it. But Commander, the pilot insisted. The transmission cut off. Silence. Vekthal sat up straighter. Scout 3, respond. No answer. He turned to his second-in-command. Locate that ship now. Sensors swept the orbit. There was no explosion, no debris, no emergency signal. It was as if the scout ship had simply vanished. The bridge of the Dominance grew colder. Officers exchanged nervous glances. Commander Vekthal growled low in his throat. He hated superstition. He hated fear. He hated Earth for making his officers doubt. Send a second ship, he barked. Double the crew, monitor everything, I want answers. Another scout ship launched, engines roaring. This time, the ship stayed farther back, carefully scanning the upper layers of the atmosphere. Strange readings grew stronger the closer they came. Inside the ship, the crew whispered to each other. Maybe the old warnings were true. Maybe Earth is not what it seems. Suddenly, alarms blared. The ship's systems froze. Panels sparked. Outside the window, a dark shape moved. Two, fast to see like a shadow made of smoke and lightning. One moment the ship was whole. The next it was gone, swallowed by an unseen force. Back on the Dominance, the command bridge fell into stunned silence. Commander Vekthal's face twisted in anger. Enough games, he snarled. Prepare the landing parties. I will not be mocked. By a sleeping rock. Across the fleet, invasion ships armed their weapons. Soldiers prepared to drop onto Earth's surface. They would teach these primitive humans fear. They would burn the cities and strip the planet clean. But far beneath Earth's soil, something old stirred. In ancient caverns hidden from the stars, silent machines woke from their slumber. Systems older than memory hummed to life. Strange golden-eyed figures, disguised as ordinary humans, opened their eyes and listened. The world above seemed still, peaceful. But Earth had heard the Xylars' laughter, and Earth was smiling. The Xylar invasion had begun. From the blackness of space, dozens of dropships pierced Earth's atmosphere like burning arrows. Their hulls glowed red-hot as they screamed toward the ground. Commander Vekthal watched from his flagship, his eyes filled with pride. Soon, Earth would kneel. Soon the Xylar Dominion would erase another warning from history. But Earth was not empty. It was only pretending. The first dropship touched down in a wide, empty field outside a sleeping human town. The engines coughed smoke into the cool night air. Soldiers in heavy armor marched down the ramp, weapons raised. Their orders were clear: establish control, capture human leaders, broadcast Xylar victory. The town ahead seemed peaceful. Small houses, flickering streetlights, not a single sign of resistance. Lieutenant Krez, the squad leader, clicked his mandibles in amusement. "This will be easy," he said. His squad laughed. They moved quickly, splitting into teams to cover more ground. House by house, they found the same thing: humans sleeping, defenseless, vulnerable, or so it seemed. At the town center, a small park stood silent under the stars. Krez sent 2 soldiers to secure it. They entered the park, weapons ready. A fountain trickled softly in the middle, reflecting the pale moonlight. Trees rustled in a gentle breeze. Then came the first scream. It was sharp, short, and it ended too quickly. Krez spun around. "Report," he barked into his communicator. No answer. He motioned for 2 more soldiers to investigate. They moved carefully toward the trees. 5 steps in, their lights flickered, and then they too disappeared. No sound, no struggle. One moment they were there. The next, nothing. Panic gripped the squad. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. Krez regrouped his remaining soldiers. "Stay together. No splitting up," he commanded. From the shadows of the trees, 2 glowing eyes appeared, golden and cold, not human at all. Weapons fired instantly. Blazing plasma bolts lit up the park, trees shattered, the fountain cracked apart. But when the smoke cleared, the golden-eyed figure was gone, and more eyes were watching. Across the rooftops, behind windows in the alleyways, silent shapes moved, not soldiers, not machines. Humans, but not normal. Commander Vekthal's voice crackled over Krez's comms. "Status report, Lieutenant. Encountered." "Resistance," Krez hissed, his voice shaking. "Unknown entities. Fast. Unseen." "Humans?" Vekthal demanded. Krez hesitated. "I don't know." Above the town, a second Xylar ship hovered, monitoring. Its sensors captured blurry footage. Figures, moving faster than bullets, blending with shadows, striking with deadly precision. The data fed back to the flagship. Commander Vekthal frowned. He didn't like mysteries. "Send more troops," he ordered. "Crush any resistance." As more soldiers landed, a strange thing happened. Their technology started failing. Guns jammed. Armor controls glitched. Communications became bursts of static. Something in the very air of Earth was fighting them. Lieutenant Krez gathered his squad behind a burned-out vehicle. "They are playing with us," he whispered, like predators toying with prey. Then the ground beneath them rumbled. From underground tunnels, strange machines rose, sleek silver shapes that pulsed with an ancient energy. Their designs were not human, but they were old, built into the planet itself. Sentinels that had waited for intruders. One of the machines moved faster than the eye could track. It sliced through a Xylar soldier's armor like paper, leaving only silence behind. Panic turned into chaos. Soldiers ran. Some fired blindly, some dropped their weapons and fled into the night. But nowhere was safe. The streets seemed to shift, leading them in circles. The town itself was a trap. Commander Vekthal watched the disaster unfold. His hands clenched into fists. How is this possible? How could primitives resist us? But far below him, the Earth whispered back a silent answer. Earth was not sleeping. Earth was hunting. The surviving Xylar soldiers tried to retreat to their ship, but found the landing zone destroyed. Craters smoked, burning metal rained from the sky. Their ships and their only escape had been reduced to molten wreckage. In the distance, the first light of dawn began to break, and standing at the edge of the ruined park, bathed in the rising sun, was a human figure. Barefoot, calm, eyes glowing gold. The figure spoke, voice carrying across the wind, "You were warned." Then it vanished like mist. Lieutenant Krez, bloodied and broken, sank to his knees. His last transmission to the flagship was just 3 words: "Earth is awake." The Xylar fleet hung in orbit, silent and shaken. Commander Vekthal paced the bridge of the Dominance, his claws tapping sharply against the floor. Every second that passed without a clear report tightened the coil of fear inside him. 2 scout, ships gone. Landing teams wiped out. Earth, the weak and sleeping world, was fighting back, not with armies but with something far worse. Ancient power and invisible teeth. "Commander," an officer croaked, bowing low, "we are detecting something beneath the planet's surface." Vekthal turned sharply. "Show me." On the main screen, the planet's outer crust appeared normal. Oceans, forests, cities. But under the thin layer of civilization, deeper scans revealed motion. Gigantic patterns like rivers of fire pulsed slowly beneath the ground. Networks of unknown energy spread across entire continents, connecting mountains, oceans, and cities like veins inside a living body. "Is it technology?" Vekthal asked, his voice low. We don't know," the officer said. "It's alive." At that moment, the fleet's ships began to glitch, not just scout ships, even the mighty Dominance flickered with bursts of static. Lights dimmed, engines coughed, communications scrambled. An invisible hand was reaching up from Earth's depths and squeezing. Across the bridge, the Xylar crew tried to maintain control, but the systems felt sluggish, heavy like trying to swim through tar. Panic gnawed at the soldiers who once thought themselves untouchable. Vekthal slammed his fist into the console. "Find me a weakness, something, anything." But Earth had no weakness. It was simply pretending. Down on the surface in the shattered town where the first Xylar squad had fallen, humans were waking up. But they were not ordinary anymore. Some were centuries-old guardians hiding in plain sight. Others were humans whose DNA had been quietly upgraded by ancient Earth systems, unknown even to themselves. The golden-eyed figure from the night before now stood at the town center. Around him the air shimmered with invisible energy. He raised a hand, and the wreckage of a Xylar ship twisted and crumpled like paper. The Xylar, watching from their fleet, saw it all. This is no ordinary world, Vekthal thought, cold dread washing over him. This is a sleeping giant. Desperate, he ordered an emergency council with his senior commanders aboard the Dominance. As they gathered, the atmosphere grew heavy, as if even the air was listening. "Commander," General Creel said carefully, "perhaps we should leave. Earth is not what we expected." Vekthal's eyes blazed with rage. "If we retreat, we will be the laughingstock of the galaxy. A world of primitives defeating the Xylar dominion? Unthinkable." "But the warnings," another officer began. "I don't fear old ghosts," Vekthal roared. Yet deep inside, a seed of fear had already taken root. Suddenly, an emergency alarm screamed through the ship. One of their smaller cruisers, stationed on the far side of the planet, had gone dark. No distress call, no explosion, just nothing. Vekthal rushed back to the viewing window. As he stared down at Earth, he saw something strange. Vast sections of the planet's oceans were glowing faintly, not with lights from cities, but with massive patterns, like ancient symbols, drawn by invisible hands across the waves. One symbol pulsed brighter than the others, a simple eye wide open. Earth was no longer pretending to sleep. It was staring straight at them. Panic spread across the fleet. Some captains tried to pull their ships back. Others began charging weapons, hoping to blast the planet before it could strike. But it was already too late. Above Earth's surface, clouds twisted unnaturally. From the swirling sky, beams of pure energy shot upward, slicing through the darkness. One hit a Xylar battleship directly, and the ship vanished without sound, not even wreckage left behind. The Xylar fleet, once proud and invincible, now trembled like insects before a coming storm. Commander Vekthal watched helplessly as his mighty fleet was slowly unraveled by a world that had been underestimated for too long. In the deepest chambers of Earth, buried under ice and stone, ancient machines continued waking. No one alive knew who had built them. No one knew how old they were, not even the humans themselves. All anyone knew now was that Earth had waited long enough. Commander Vekthal's claws dug deep into the armrest of his command chair. His officers stood frozen around him, eyes wide, antennae trembling. On the massive screen ahead, Earth loomed larger, brighter, almost alive. One by one, the Xylar fleet was being picked apart, not by visible weapons, not by vast armies, but by forces unseen and unstoppable. Still, Vekthal refused to believe it. Earth is just a primitive world, he kept telling himself. They cannot defeat us. Blinded by pride, he gave one final order. Land everything we have. Occupy the planet by force. Show them the power of Xylar. Across the fleet, thousands of Xylar troops geared up for mass landing. Dropships launched in black swarms, descending through thick clouds onto Earth's surface. This time they were ready for resistance. Weapons primed, battle armor reinforced. Orders were clear, no mercy. The first dropships touched down in a sprawling human city. Glass towers, quiet streets, blinking lights. The Xylar soldiers poured out, weapons raised, expecting an immediate battle. But the city was silent. Too silent. No sirens, no running civilians, no defenses. Just the sound of the wind whispering through empty streets. Lieutenant Varesh led the first squad into a wide-open plaza. In the center stood a massive statue of a human, tall, proud, reaching for the sky. He sneered. Such fragile creatures. He raised his plasma rifle and fired. The statue cracked and shattered, raining debris onto the tiles. The Xylar soldiers laughed and roared in victory. Then the ground beneath them shifted. Without warning, the tiles split apart, and from beneath the city, colossal metallic vines erupted. They were not plants. They were living machines, ancient and merciless. The vines whipped through the air, grabbing Xylar soldiers mid-scream, pulling them into the ground without a trace. Some vines smashed straight through armor as if it were paper. Others struck with pinpoint precision, cutting weapons and limbs with surgical cruelty. Within seconds, half the squad was gone. Lieutenant Varesh fired wildly, but his shots barely scorched the living machines. He tried to retreat, shouting into his communicator, "Commander, we are under attack. The ground itself fights us." Across the city, more Xylar squads faced the same horror. Buildings shifted, hiding snipers. Streets reformed into mazes, trapping soldiers. Electric currents raced up from the pavement, frying. Weapons and armor alike. The humans were nowhere to be seen. The city itself had become the enemy. In orbit, aboard the Dominance, Commander Vekthal stared at the live feeds, his face pale under his armor. Soldiers crushed, squads erased, entire dropships swallowed whole by the ground. This is not war, whispered one officer. This is execution. Vekthal slammed his fist down. Send reinforcements, send everything. But deep inside, even he knew. It was too late. The cost of arrogance was being paid in blood. Back in the city, a single human finally stepped into view. A woman, barefooted, dressed in simple clothes, walking calmly through the chaos. Her golden eyes glowed, like suns. She didn't run, she didn't hide, she simply walked. Lieutenant Varesh saw her and roared in anger. He raised his rifle and fired. The bolt of plasma rushed toward her and stopped mid-air, frozen as if time itself refused to obey the Xylar. The woman tilted her head, almost curiously. Then, with a slight wave of her hand, she sent the plasma bolt hurtling back and not at Varesh but at the ground behind him. The explosion tore through his reinforcements, scattering soldiers like leaves in a storm. Varesh turned to flee, terror gripping his heart. He didn't get far. The vines found him first. The last thing he saw before being dragged into the earth was the woman's calm, unblinking stare. High above, Commander Vekthal received the final transmission from the ground forces. A broken signal filled with static, screams, and one whispered sentence. Earth does not sleep. It remembers. The bridge of the Dominance went silent. Every officer now realized they had awoken something ancient, something patient, something that did not forgive. Across the galaxy, dead civilizations had left the same warning carved in ruins and bones. Beware the sleeping Earth. The Xylar Dominion had laughed. Now they would become the next dead race, and Earth would add one more warning to the stars. The Xylar Dominion was crumbling, and Earth had barely even moved. Commander Vekthal stood stiffly on the bridge of the Dominance, his eyes locked on the disaster unfolding below. Every landing force had gone silent. Thousands of soldiers, gone. Entire cities swallowed whole, their finest machines crushed like toys, and Earth remained silent. No boasts, no declarations of victory, only a quiet, terrible watching. Vekthal turned sharply toward his communications officer. Open. A galaxy-wide channel, he barked. We will call for reinforcements. We will summon the Dominion's full might. The officer shook his head in terror. Commander, the signals. They are blocked. Earth has jammed everything. Vekthal roared, slashing the air with his claws, but inside, he felt a growing dread he could no longer deny. Outside the viewing glass, Earth's skies began to change. Soft clouds twisted into spirals. Waves in the oceans formed impossible patterns, like eyes, faces, and ancient glyphs. The very planet was speaking without words. Then, without warning, a single transmission broke through the static. It was not from the Xylar fleet. It was from Earth. Across every Xylar ship, every screen, every speaker, a message played. A low voice, deep and old, filled the air. We watched you when you learned to crawl among the stars. We listened when you whispered of conquest. We waited as you mocked our silence. The screens flickered, images flashed, broken empires, burning worlds, dead races, all had tried to touch Earth once before. You believed Earth was sleeping. You believed you were safe. You were wrong. The voice faded, but something remained. A symbol burned into every ship's display, a human hand, open and waiting, but in the center of the palm, an eye, staring wide and unblinking. It was a message. Earth was awake now, and Earth would not close its eyes again. Panic shattered the Xylar fleet's discipline. Captains screamed orders. Ships tried to pull away from orbit, engines howling. Some overloaded their jump drives, desperate to flee the cursed blue world. But the sky had other plans. Above Earth, a crackling web of energy unfurled, spreading wider and wider. It was not a weapon built by human hands. It was part of Earth itself, an ancient shield of pure willpower and forgotten science. Ships trying to escape slammed into the invisible barrier and shattered like glass. Commander Vekthal's own ship jolted violently. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Officers were thrown to the floor. Systems crashed one by one. We're trapped, someone screamed. Vekthal gritted his teeth. He would not die in shame. Prepare the emergency beacon, he barked. Even if we cannot escape, we must warn the Dominion. The emergency beacon was the Xylar fleet's final tool, a small black sphere hidden deep within the Dominance. If activated, it could send a single transmission through any blockades, racing faster than light across the galaxy. Vekthal himself rushed to the beacon chamber, keying in the launch codes with shaking hands. At least the others will know, he thought grimly. They will know Earth is not sleeping. The beacon launched, a tiny black tear in space, racing outward, carrying one final warning to the Xylar capital. Inside the beacon, a message was encoded. the loss of the First Fleet. The failure of the invasion, the activation of Earth's ancient defenses, and the simple, deadly truth: Earth pretends to sleep. On the Dominance, the crew prepared for the end. The ground below began to glow with lines of molten light, forming a massive ring around the planet. Energy built up, vibrating the air, shaking the heavens. Earth had given its final warning, and now it was answering in full. One by one, Xylar ships were pulled downward by invisible hands, crashing into the ocean, burning through the sky, swallowed into the endless forests. None escaped, none survived. Commander Vekthal, standing at the window of his doomed ship, stared at Earth. And for the first time in his life, he understood true fear. He whispered his final words into the silent. "Void, forgive us." The Dominance exploded in a silent flash, vanishing without leaving even a shadow. And above, Earth's sky returned to calm blue, as if nothing had ever happened. But across the galaxy, the emergency beacon traveled, and soon, the stars themselves would tremble. Earth had woken, and it would never sleep again. Across the galaxy, the beacon arrived. It broke through security shields, bypassed closed networks, and slammed into the heart of the Xylar Dominion's capital, a massive world called Vorakesh, home to trillions. Within minutes, the emergency signal was decoded and broadcasted to every leader, every high command, every council across the Dominion. Every citizen saw it, every soldier heard it, every ruler trembled. Earth, the forgotten world. Earth, the sleeping planet. Earth had destroyed the mighty Xylar First Fleet, without mercy, without hesitation, and without even revealing its full strength. Panic erupted like wildfire. The Dominion's Grand Council called an emergency meeting, the likes of which hadn't happened in 1,000 years. Across the galaxy, the most powerful beings gathered inside the High Dome, a building taller than mountains, made of shimmering black crystal. Inside, holograms flickered to life, each showing the faces of leaders, warlords, kings, and queens from 100 species. The mood was grim. The fear was real. At the center of the Great Hall, Chancellor Velzar of the Xylar Dominion rose slowly from his golden throne. His long, spiked cloak dragged across the floor as he walked to the speaking platform. He looked older than ever, his proud shoulders now weighed down by invisible chains. He spoke, his voice sharp but trembling. "We face a threat we do not understand. A world we believed weak has revealed itself to be a sleeping god," the council murmured nervously. Some demanded immediate retaliation. "Destroy Earth before it grows stronger," barked General Vrennik, pounding his armored fist. "No," shouted a scientist. "We don't know what weapons Earth still hides. We attack and we could doom ourselves." Others whispered of secret peace treaties, of hiding, of pretending Earth never existed. "Perhaps if we offer gifts," suggested a trembling ambassador, "Earth will spare us." Across the council, leaders argued, cursed, pleaded. But above them, a giant hologram played again and again. The final message from Earth's beacon: an open hand, an unblinking eye, and around it, the crumbling ruins of those who had dared to touch Earth. Chancellor Velzar slammed his staff down, silencing the hall. "Listen to me," he hissed. "Earth has defeated fleets greater than ours. It has outlasted empires older than memory. If we fight it blindly, we will share the same fate as the fallen." He turned slowly, letting his cold gaze pass over each trembling leader. The old warnings were true. Earth is not sleeping. Earth is watching. A heavy silence settled over the council. Then, one by one, the leaders of the galaxy's greatest civilizations lowered their heads in shame and fear. For the first time in known history, the galaxy agreed on something without war, without debate. No one would touch Earth again. Earth was no longer seen as a backwater planet, a forgotten place among the stars. It was now a living myth, a sleeping lion that had shown its fangs, and across countless worlds urgent orders went out. Cancel all missions toward the solar system. Erase Earth from expansion maps. Teach future generations. Do not disturb the silent world. Meanwhile, hidden far away on Earth, humanity carried on as if nothing had happened. Children laughed in parks. Artists painted. Builders raised cities higher into the skies. Ordinary humans lived their simple lives, unaware that the galaxy had just bowed before them. But in the deepest places of Earth, ancient guardians stirred. They knew. They always knew. Earth's patience was not endless. It only pretended to sleep. Far beyond Earth's skies, in the endless darkness of space, a single scout ship floated silently. It did not belong to the Xylar Dominion. Their empire was collapsing under the weight of fear. No, this ship came from a young, daring race. The Ventari, bold explorers who believed the stories about Earth were only myths meant to scare cowards. Inside the tiny craft, a crew of 3 leaned over their controls, watching Earth's blue glow grow larger and larger. "This is foolish," whispered the pilot, her voice tight with fear. "We should not be here." Her captain, a proud Ventari male with silver skin and cold eyes, laughed. "The stories are lies. Earth is harmless. We'll scan the planet, take samples, and return heroes." The ship dipped lower, entering Earth's outer atmosphere, and Earth's ancient eyes opened. At first, nothing seemed wrong. The Earth below turned gently, green and blue and full of life. Cities sparkled like tiny gems. Oceans shimmered under sunlight. But then, the stars blinked out. One by one, constellations the Ventari knew vanished, swallowed by blackness. Their instruments screamed warnings. Strange energy fields twisted around the ship. Controls failed. Lights flickered. The pilot screamed, trying to pull the ship away. Too late. The stars were not gone. They were covered by something vast, something living, something older than the stars themselves. In their final moments, the Ventari crew saw it. Not a ship, not a weapon, but a shape, coiled around Earth like a guardian dragon, invisible and eternal. It had always been there. It had only been pretending not to exist. Until now, the scout ship was gone in an instant. No explosion, no debris, simply erased. Back on Earth, a young boy sat on a hill, staring at the night sky. He had no idea that moments ago, an alien ship had tried to approach. He didn't know that ancient forces had awakened to defend him. All he knew was that he loved watching the stars. Beside him, an old man, his grandfather, sat quietly. The boy pointed upward. "Grandpa, do you think there are aliens out there?" The old man smiled faintly, a glint of ancient knowing in his eyes. "There might be," he said. "But they won't bother us." "Why not?" the boy asked. The old man chuckled softly. "Because," he said, "this world pretends to sleep." The boy laughed, not understanding. He went back to gazing at the sky, full of dreams and wonder, and far beneath their feet, deep in the bones of the Earth, ancient machines returned to rest. The energy field settled. The guardians coiled back into slumber. Earth once again closed, its mighty eyes, for now. But somewhere in the cold galaxy, across millions of stars, whispers spread. Earth pretends to sleep. But if you wake it, you may not survive to regret it. And so, across the endless night, alien worlds erased Earth from their charts. Civilizations built walls of fear around their knowledge of the little blue world. Warnings were carved into stone, sung in ancient songs, passed down through generations. Do not wake the sleeping giant. Do not disturb the Earth. And the Earth spun on, quiet, beautiful, and smiling a secret smile. Waiting, watching, always pretending.